and welcome to my workshop. I'm doing this little video here to share my DIY project on this track sled or Snowdog, as they're commercially known as. Quick video. Objective, I'm going to go through just the overview of the functionality of the whole machine, review very quickly the chassis that I used to start with, and then I'm going to mostly focus on the engine and drive system, which is where I struggled with a little bit when I did the original build. And then it's followed up by a couple of videos of the test drive. So welcome and thank you for watching. What I started out with was a early 1980s machine that I bought. I think it had a own engine. Bought the chassis with the hood and the whole 9 yards. Cut off the front end, and basically removing the whole front end of the machine. What you want to keep is basically the tunnel, the track, and the drive shaft for sure. And then there's some different options from there. What you want to make sure that you are keeping on the original machine is some of that integrity in the front. There's kind of a box here at the front. The front end of the tunnel is closed. My opinion is that you want to keep that so that box is intact, and you don't want to have your drive shaft maintaining the structural integrity of the front end of the tunnel. So that's the gist of it, and we're going to change the angle of the camera, come in closer so I can show you what the drive system looks like. My Snowdog here, starting with from the engine, going all the way back down to the snowmobile track. So I started off with a CVT. This is a TAV2 or TAV 2-30, depending on what you look it up online. There's a whole bunch available. A lot of them offshore, very inexpensive. I've seen some. They're basically knockoffs of the Comet version of this clutch system. I use the offshore one. I've had no issues with this. Are there better or worse ones? Don't know. Can't comment. But I've had no issues with this one. I've got about 150 kilometers on this one. Original belt. Still engaging correctly. Spools up nice. So I've had no issues. This is the particular one that I purchased offline. You choose whatever you want. These ones are probably a third of what the Comet ones are. And I've had no issues with this particular version of it. This is so what comes in the kit is the primary, secondary, and a backing plate. So this comes all as one unit. It bolts directly into the engine and onto the shaft. It's a 3/4 inch drive shaft on this particular engine. Most of these, the most common ones, are for this 3/4 inch shaft with the keyway. So this is the primary part of the drive. From there, it comes with a 10-tooth drive sprocket. And on this one here, I have a 32-tooth sprocket on here. So 10 to 32, which goes to the jack shaft. One of the modifications that I had to do to the tunnel here is this jack shaft is about 2.5 inches off the tunnel in here. So the sprocket is actually bigger than that, larger diameter. So I had to deform the top of the tunnel to accept that particular sprocket. I could maybe go a little bit bigger on that sprocket, but not a whole bunch of room. So depending on what kind of chassis you're using to build your Snowdog, that's something you're going to look at. I was able to deform the tunnel here so it doesn't interfere with the track underneath it and allows the sprocket to turn. Some jack shafts on some chassis are lower than that, and depending on the chassis you're using, some of them on the actual snowmobile, you go from primary on the engine, and the secondary is mounted directly onto the drive. So that would have to build your own jack shaft. So I'm not sure which is easier or better. If you're building your own, you can raise it as much and go with a slightly bigger sprocket, give you a bit more torque, a little less top end, depending what you're doing with it. I'm mostly using this for tracking cross-country ski trails, and I'm basically just crawling the machine. Most times I'm just above idle, just after the clutching gauges, so it's fine. I got a lot of torque there, no issues. Only thing you could also do if you're looking for a little bit more torque and to maintain so it doesn't shift as fast, is you go to a slightly stronger spring on the secondary, which slows the shift of the CVT. So you maintain RPM, especially if you get to the top end and your engine starts to bog and you're shifting a little too quick. But for what I'm doing here, this works pretty good. You'll see the video. I have one video where I'm on flat packed snow, and it goes up to top RPM, and then I have another section of the video where I'm going into pretty deep snow, kind of wet snow, pretty heavy, and you can tell the engine's kind of starting to struggle a little bit, but it pulls it out without any too much issues. So basically, from here, this is the shaft coming through here. That's the jack shaft from the original snowmobile. There's the brake, so I reutilized the brake, and the stock chain case from the snowmobile. And this particular one has a gear ratio of 17 teeth on the bottom, 17 and 31 on the bottom. So that's what the total gear ratio. That seems to work quite well. I probably would try to go smaller than this. I think you'd be underpowered, and if you go bigger, then you get a little bit more torque, lose a bit of top end, possibly, depending on how your engine struggles at the top end. And again, depending what you're using it for. The sled that I'm dragging, I'm trying to cut tracks in the snow, so I'm purposely trying to push as much snow as I can. If you had a bigger sled and wider and longer, you're sitting on top of the snow, a little bit less drag. So depending on what you're trying to do, but this would probably work pretty well across the board. So that's the drive system. The only thing that I did do on this is I added, I don't know how well you can see, but there's a bracket in here that doesn't come with the kit. I made a bracket, so because this plate is mounted on here and it's kind of hanging in air. My concern was if you start putting too much torque on here, the tension on the chain would pull on those fasteners a little bit too much. I had a little bit of concern, so I put a bracket on here so it supports the backing plate to the tunnel, just as a precaution. Is it needed? I'm not sure. That's what I did. A small bracket, a couple of bolts, and gave me some level of insurance. So that's the drive system. Now if you move back to the engine, this engine here is a Honda knockoff. If you're looking for any kind of information on these little engines, look up Predator 212, and you'll get all kinds of stuff on the internet, from how to get more performance out of them to whatever, you name it, it's out there. There's all kinds of crazy things out there. A lot of guys are using these on little mini bikes or go-karts or similar engines. This one is a 208cc. The Predator is a 212, so same class. Basically, they look very much like Honda knockoffs. So what I've done on this one, what you have to do is you have to modify the throttle. Most of these things are set up for fixed throttle, like on a snowblower or a tiller, where you just set the throttle and you leave it. Whereas here we're running a throttle on your thumb, and you're always kind of feathering the throttle as you're accelerating and slowing down. So there's all kinds of DIYs on that. There's some kits out there available to convert them, bolt-ons, get the tanks off, whatever, all kinds of stuff out there. So I won't get into that too much. I'll just show you what I've done here as the minimum. I've taken the governor off. The reason for me taking the governor off is the governor obviously limits your RPMs. I'm trying to get a bit more RPMs, and the governor adjusts the RPMs of the engine. And this CVT kind of acts as somewhat of a governor. So my fear was that they would conflict. So I've taken the governor on, so you have total control of your speed based on the throttle that you're pulling on the handlebars. Again, if you're looking to remove the governor, tons of videos on there. Look up Predator 212, and it's as simple as either cutting the springs for your governor or opening the crankcase and removing the actual mechanism, which is what I did on this one. What's right, what's wrong, don't know. That's up to you. That's up to you. Remove the throttle, the fixed throttle. Remove the governor. The other thing that I've done, exhaust on these ones, from how this one came, and they seem to all come that way, is the exhaust comes straight out the back. So I found that kind of noisy, and you end up you're in the cloud of the exhaust. So didn't care for that. So I cut this off, turn the exhaust 90 degrees, so now the exhaust is coming straight out the side. Ideally, I'd like to get it kind of pointing down, but and again, if you're looking for exhaust kits, look up Predator 212, and there's all kinds of stuff. Real straight pipe, all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's out there. I try to kind of keep it very limited to what I could do without having to purchase a whole bunch of stuff. The other thing again is the engine comes with a shut-off switch right on the engine, right in the front. Not very convenient if you're in a sticky situation, your throttle sticks or whatever. You don't want to be running up here because you have to let go of the machine, and hopefully you can outrun it. So you don't want to be doing that. So I disabled the switch and put the switch on the handlebar, so it's basically a push to kill. You let it go, and you don't have to worry about turning the machine on or off. It's always on. You crank it, it fires up, and you press it to kill it. And there's that safety cord on there as well on the handlebars. The other thing I did remove on here, this particular engine came with a low oil shut-off switch. And I read a few things, and some people were saying that they disconnect them, especially if you start rocking the engine and you're turning this thing and it sits on its side. It's going to detect low oil and shut itself off. Knowing that I'm going to rock this thing and being all kinds of terrain, I just felt more comfortable just removing it, so I'm not getting those false shut-offs. And I just make sure I check the oil before I take it out for a ride. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I hope you enjoyed my review on my build. Hope it's of some help. Have fun out there, and stay safe. That's what it's for. But you can also have fun with it.